this infinite processing power, in your consciousness and subconsciousness and higher self even. You have all of them aligned. You can just go anywhere, do everything, calculate anything. And so that's what I used it for. And here it was, it broke. I'm like, wait a minute, that can't happen. So I'm just missing something here. I'm really missing something. And so from there I started looking into more of like the esoteric interpretations of dreams, more than cutting edge research on dreams too, or dream interpretations. It bordered into astral projection and things like that, and out-of-body experiences. And then I started reading books on lucid dreaming. But when I was reading these things, I'm like, I've done that. I've done that too. I've used it for that. What happened? I was dreaming. We all go through this phase at night where we kind of index our previous day while we're dreaming.
Mm-hmm.
I was kind of doing that. And you can watch that if you want to. So I wasn't really watching it, but I kind of woke up in that indexing phase, and I'm like, why am I in this indexing phase? And I started getting pulled into what I call the void. A lot of people call the void, just the black, nothing. And I started hearing music, like big orchestral music. And I'm like, okay, I'm having this dream. And all of a sudden, my consciousness is trying to be hazily put into this body running. And I can see there's a bunch of ETs everywhere. EVEs, they're kind of tan-skinned, big black eyes. They weren't like the Greys or the reptilians, like they said. They were something else. And it was like a fight. It was like the United States. I was like a United States kind of outfit of some kind. I'd never seen it before. I could tell the body that it was in was slightly older, maybe like 5 or 6 years. And I was using some kind of psychic push thing. And now because I've just done this dreaming thing so long, I have a way of checking, like, what reality I'm in and what rules I can break and use and do different things in. And I'm like,
right.
whoa, this is...
Let me ask you some questions to kind of get a feel for how it kind of works. Okay, so you've been doing this since about 10 years old, right?
I would say 10 years old is really when I probably have the most intense traveling started happening. But I also have a lot of blocks, which I'm trying to work on, and I know I put them there for some reason, so I don't know.
Okay, so how often do you go out and about on the boat?
It's kind of like, I have to have a reason, like a target, because, like, for instance, like a lot of people, like, instantly in these circles of like, well, why don't you project to the moon and go find out what's there, go project to Mars? It's like, well, would it matter what I say if I did that? Would it really kind of bring any proof to anyone? And it's kind of like, I don't need it anymore, because I remember just going in there and having fun with a lot of different things this whole time, but I thought it was in my head. I didn't know it was real. So it's like I can say, yeah, there's probably stuff there. But it's like,
how do you differentiate, Jerry, between the lucid dreaming and the astral projection?
I guess the projection would be more of kind of like you're trying to bring out some kind of real world reference or some kind of like point reference. So like astral projecting, we can do that in a very universal term. For instance, like sometimes we all have dreams about common things like being in a hotel. Okay, if for whatever reason, oh, this happened in a hotel, or I went to this hotel. And hotels, because they have so many doors and windows and this and that generally kind of symbolizes a time and place of choice, and a coming and going of visitors, vacation, such. And so and the way the subconscious basically talks to us, it's all associative. So anything associated with any of those concepts that I just talked about can be your link to this projected concept, but essentially it's a point within the collective consciousness, if that makes sense.
Okay, so are you saying that you kind of just know the difference?
There's some sensations that I can go into, but it's kind of, they'll probably be just as cryptic. But there is checks that you can do that kind of let you know where you're at. Because, like, for instance, a lot of it too is your point of view. Because if you're like, well, I don't know, this is what I term it full lucid, which is basically like how you and me are talking right now. We have a consciousness that sees in a body, and, that's it. But then there's also other forms of lucidity, because you can be watching that body doing that. You can be watching someone else doing whatever you want. So that's also, but you don't have a body per se. Then the astral projection would come in when you maybe do have a projected body in a location.
Is it feathered?
What's that, sorry?
Is it tethered? Silver
You know,
cord?
I've never seen any kind of cord. I've never seen anything like that. That's not to say that I can't say for a fact, yes, it exists, no, it doesn't, but I know that there is something that always allows us to kind of blink out, get out, for the most part. You know, as long as we have our mind in the right spot. If you're operating in fear while you're there, just like, you know, in your waking life, you're going to make bad decisions. You know, you're not going to remember, I have the eject button, so to speak. You know what I mean? And you always have that eject button there. So.
All right, well, let me ask you this. Let's from everything you just said, let's break it down to try to simplify, because we're getting some questions in the chat room. What's the difference between lucid dreaming and astral projection? And then another one to define the terms of lucid dreaming and astral projection. So essentially, if you could kind of boil it down to its base differences, what's the difference in the two?
All right, it's actually a fairly tall order for a guy, but I'll do it. Lucid dreaming, like if you want to give it a blanket statement, I kind of just say conscious dreaming, because there's different ways of being conscious that you're dreaming. That's where a lot of the books don't go into, a lot of the esoteric teachings don't go into. They just don't mention it. And that's where that's how come astral projection and even deep meditation and visions start falling into the same category, because scientifically we're in the exact same state of mind, or, you know, the exact same brain activities going on as you would be sleeping, as opposed to just sitting and meditating and going very, very deep into theta, you know.
So that's lucid dreaming. So lucid dreaming is you're in a dream state, but you still kind of have the awakening consciousness of sorts?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Okay.
And
astral projection?
Astral projection would be more of, this is where you kind of communicate more. Because, like, for instance, you can build your own dream, and you can just build your dream, and you can have fun in your dream, do whatever you want. But then you can also communicate. That's the weird thing. How do I know this? Because I've had numerous experiences where, like, I meet people, like, in my dreams before I actually meet them in my waking life. Or, you know, actually just recently, this week, me and my wife actually had a shared dream. You know, we were able to describe everything that was going on and everything. You know, and, oh, yeah, you saw this? Yeah, I did. And that's been known to happen, you know. And so to do that, you have to be projecting into kind of a collective consciousness. Like I said, you have to be kind of attached to whatever, you know, what this whole globe basically essentially calls, or even this universe calls, reality somehow, to interact, have feedback. And in dreamland, so to speak, or the astral plane, you can kind of tell. I know that's one questions a lot of people are going to ask right away, is the eyes. Look in the eyes. If you, you'll see what you're talking to, or it will block you. So,
okay, so let's...
When you decide that you're going to do some astral projection, do you meditate before you do the astral projection? And when you actually do, now my concept of astral projection, and I think maybe some of the folks in the audience might have a tendency to agree with me, is that that you consciously, it's kind of like remote viewing, except you can actually transport either your spirit or your whatever, your consciousness, to a certain site. So what do you do if you, let's say you consciously want to astrally project? How do you prepare yourself for that? Do you do anything special? And tell us a little bit about some of the places, the most interesting places that you've astrally projected yourself to.
Wow. Okay. I guess to prepare for it, it really comes down to focus. So whatever one's means of focusing is, you know, that's the main thing. So, like, for instance, if I want to find out, you know, what's for myself, you know, what's going on, you know, in the deserts of New Mexico, I have to be thinking about it, or I can, and make it a lot easier. You know, this is where it differs from remote viewing, because remote viewing was actually a term that was specifically coined by, you know, basically in the United States government. You know, Joseph McGarnacle, you know, with the psychic spies and